From the opinion pages of the Wall Street Journal, this is Potomac Watch.
The U.S. House of Representatives votes overwhelmingly to order the Chinese owner of TikTok, a company called ByteDance, to sell the social media site or be blocked in the United States. Why did Republicans ignore Donald Trump on this issue? And how will the Senate handle the bill? Welcome. I'm Paul Gigot here on the Wall Street Journal Opinion Pages podcast, Potomac Watch. And I'm joined here by my colleagues, Alicia Finley and Kate Batchelder-Odell. Welcome to you both. Let's start with this TikTok vote in the House, which was really a remarkable display of bipartisan support. Let's listen to Republican Congressman from Wisconsin, Mike Gallagher, who is the co-author of the legislation.
It takes no position at all on the content of speech, only foreign adversary control. Foreign adversary control of what is becoming the dominant news platform for Americans under 30. This is a common sense measure to protect our national security. I urge my colleagues to support this critical bipartisan legislation.
And boy, did they ever, 352 to 65. And the breakdown by party, 197 Republicans in favor, 15 noes. Democrats, 155 in favor, 50 noes. Even more interesting was who voted no. On the Democratic side, mostly the left, including the Squad, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Cori Bush of the Squad, and others. And on the right, it was mostly the Trumpian blow-it-all-up wing of the GOP, Matt Gaetz, Andy Biggs, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and a couple of others. There are a couple of honorable, I think, principled exceptions. Tom McClintock of California tends to be a libertarian on this subject. But very interesting vote, Alicia. What do you make of it?
We shouldn't ignore that this was overwhelmingly, there was overwhelming support, which shows just how much TikTok, to some extent, has burned its bridges in Congress and how it's handled this, both by essentially sticking millions of TikTokers on Congress members. But I also think the opposition from the left is partly driven by the fact that a lot of the left and progressives use TikTok to motivate their bases. They reach out to them. AOC is very active on TikTok. And actually, most TikTokers tend to be young, and that is the progressive base. On the right, my sources say it wasn't really necessarily just Trump and Musk. Elon Musk actually came out against it. One reason is his quote-unquote First Amendment principles, which can kind of be wishy-washy. But he also thought the bill could rope in X.com because it could be applied to any company that is under, or as Mike Gallagher said, foreign adversary control. If you actually read the fine print of the bill, it could not be applied to X.com. But if you recall last year, a couple of years ago, when he tried to buy X.com,
formerly known as
Twitter, right? Some of the left said that CFIUS should block the transaction because it was a could be a foreign controlled entity because they had some investment from the Saudis. And so maybe Elon Musk is a little paranoid about that, but there is no way that the bill could be applied to X.com.
CFIUS is the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States. It's a government cross-agency committee that reviews foreign investment in the United States, and has been working with ByteDance to try to come to some kind of a agreement on its control of TikTok to no avail. Kate, I think the credit here, and you've been following this for a while, the credit here has to go to both Mike Gallagher and his co-chair of the Special House China Committee, Raja Krishnamurti of Illinois. The two of them really worked this very long and carefully. And maybe surprisingly for a House Majority Chairman like Gallagher, brought in the Biden administration to consult and help with the analysis of the national security risks.
I think there's no question the spade work that Gallagher did with Democratic colleagues is the reason why the bill passed so overwhelmingly and even managed to take TikTok by surprise. I think there are a couple elements of that. I think the drafters learned from some of the mistakes that previous attempts to force a divestment from TikTok have fallen into. They perhaps overly broad, couldn't stand up in court for any number of reasons. And so in this case, the bill's drafters tried to come up with a narrow bill. And to Alicia's point about foreign adversary control, I mean, that's narrowly defined as China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran. Not the Saudis, as Alicia mentioned, not any number of other people. It's a narrow definition. And also, they worked proactively with the Justice Department to try to be sure that the Biden administration would actually sign something if the House did manage to pass it, and cared about whether they got a result and not just a bill passed through the House. And I think that they also did a decent job trying to address the legal concerns about either a bill of attainder that was too targeted at one company, or these kind of separate concerns about the First Amendment, even though the bill is focused on who owns the platform, not what Americans say or do on the platform. I also think one other thing that I would mention that I do think matters is the proponents of the bill have rooted their case in the national security reasons why ByteDance's ownership of TikTok is unacceptable, and they have not gone in to the cultural social media wars about how TikTok is bad for young minds, which I happen to think it is, but I think it is more compelling to focus narrowly on this national security case and build a coalition that way, as opposed to this broader case about it being bad for our young people, even though, like I said, it certainly is.
Well, if you had gone that cultural route, then you suddenly have to consider Facebook and a lot of other U.S.-owned social media sites, Instagram, for example, which we know has had some negative influences on the self-image of young girls in particular. I think that evidence is demonstrable. And I don't think they would have passed nothing because that's just too controversial and too broad. This narrows the framework. And it's pretty interesting on the national security side because I think my impression is that the classified briefings, Alicia, that were provided by the administration on this to members of Congress, we, of course, unfortunately, can't get access to those, try as we might. But the members were able to hear some of what the concerns are by national security officials. And the TikTok response has been, well, wait a minute. We have this project that to address your concerns, we have put our servers under control of a U.S. company, the big software firm Oracle. And that should arrest any concerns that the Chinese Communist Party can control this data. But that isn't very persuasive.
No, it's not persuasive for a number of reasons. First of all, the data under Chinese law, ByteDance is a Chinese company, and it must assist with any kind of surveillance or any kind of investigations that the Chinese government is embarking on, which means that if the Chinese government wants to get access to this data, even though it's on American soil, ByteDance must send the data back to China. And we know that the data is going back to China from various leaks in the company.
Different stories that have
appeared in numerous outlets, including the Journal. In fact, the ByteDance uses the data to train the algorithms in China. So
and the algorithms are controlled by Chinese
engineers, yeah. Right. And so Oracle supposedly has access to the algorithms or can view the algorithms. There have also been leaks that the ByteDance engineers are updating the algorithms so quickly that Oracle engineers really don't have any way of screening or even being able to tell what they're doing to the algorithms. And I think that it was apparent last fall when a video that Osama bin Laden's 2002 letter to America just went viral. And afterward, TikTok's response was, well, it only got a few million views, right? And some of our more pop culture ones get tens of millions. And then it eventually agreed to ban the hashtag. But this is basically how it's been behaving all along. Something will go viral or it'll get in trouble, and then it'll say, oh, no, we didn't do anything. We're not at fault. There was a scandal. It was actually came out that they were spying on U.S. journalists who had access, at BuzzFeed and Forbes, who had reported critically of the company and had an internal leaker. And ByteDance engineers had used location data from the journalists to try to figure out who the leaker was. And again, TikTok said, well, it was just a few select employees and they're no longer with the company. Nothing to see here, folks. It kind of reminds me of the Chinese weather balloon. So it's just a weather balloon. We're not doing, any kind of surveillance.
Just floated off course.
Yeah.